Do you want to know the best defenders to play in Year 7 Season 3 Brutal Swarm? We've come to the right video. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you the best 5 defenders for the new season and why you should be playing them. With all that out the way, let's just get straight into the video. Coming into my number 5 spot is going to be Goyo. Now, Goyo did receive a buff this season of him getting a 1.5 on his Vector. If you remember a few years back, Mira got the exact same thing on her Vector, getting the 1.5, and it made her absolutely broken. This gun was already good enough with 0 recoil and a high amount of fire rate, but now you can have the 1.5 and a suppressor because there's no recoil, and it can be an absolute monster of a gun. Goyo also has 4 flame canisters that last a very, very long amount of time, and if you know how to play them correctly, he can be very good. The only downside is if you don't really know how to play him that well, he's actually more of a hindrance to your team than he is useful, so you need to be careful about that. But if you're good at him, then there's no issue. Going into his loadout, he has the Vector 4.5 or the TCS G12. Both very good guns. Like I said, the Vector is very good. TCSG is also pretty good. It has a high variety of scopes with low recoil and 63 damage, which is a 2-tap to the body. I personally used to like this gun a lot, but now with the Vector having a 1.5 and suppressors being meta, I'm no longer going to run it, and I suggest you do the same. His secondary gun is the P229 handgun. It has 51 damage on a pistol with 12 bullets. So again, a 2-tap to the body for 3 speeds and a 3-tap to any other defender, but pretty good in general. The fire rate feels really nice. The recoil is not much at all, so a very good secondary there. He also has prox alarms or a nitro cell. You're always going to want to bring a nitro cell over prox alarms if anybody else has that option, because again, it's more plant denial, just like you have the 4 Goyo canisters for. And if you're unable to shoot your Goyo canisters, or you want to combo up the explosion with your nitro cell and your canisters, you can do that with ease with the nitro cell. So the prime loadout I would recommend was Vector, P229, and the nitro cell. That being said, with Goyo, you just place all of his gadgets where you want them to go in prep phase, and then you're able to go wherever you want. This means that Goyo can be played in a variety of ways. You can roam with him, you can anchor with him, you can lurk near sight with him, which just makes it easier to pick up and learn how to play Goyo, as you can play him in a multitude of different ways. There are better entry denial operators like Smoke or Tachanka, but they're more suited towards anchoring, and you have to use their abilities in game and on the site. You can't just set them up in prep phase and have your teammates or you use them later in the round, which is why Goyo has an upper advantage compared to them. So very easy for solo queue, very easy to pick up. He just got buffed, and I definitely recommend you learn how to play Goyo correctly. Coming into my number 4 spot is Bandit. Bandit got a huge buff this season with EMP grenades being in full effect. You can Bandit trick very easily. Cade is becoming a little more obsolete now compared to Bandit because Cade tricking is a lot harder to do, and the only way you can really avoid EMP grenades with Cade is by putting both of your Cade claws on both sides of the wall. That being said, if you're using 2 Cade claws to counter EMP grenades on one wall, that means you're only using your Cade claws on one wall, as opposed to playing somebody like Bandit or Mute, where you can put your stuff on multiple walls and it still be viable. So with that being said, Bandit is becoming a lot more viable than Cade in this meta. For ranked, Cade is still pretty good, but I want to say Bandit is starting to get played a lot more, and Cade is going to get banned a lot less. They also last season made Bandit tricking a lot easier, as you can put multiple Bandits on the same wall. So instead of having to take off your Bandit or shoot it and put another one on to trick the wall, you can just put 2 Bandits on the outside of the wall, play in the middle, and put a Bandit on the wall that needs a thermite taken off. Very, very easy to do. His MP7 is one of the best defender SMGs in the game, and with a suppressor, due to it having no recoil, it's extremely strong in that way as well. Going into more of his loadout, he has the option between the MP7 and the M870. The M870 is actually a very, very good shotgun. The range is a lot more than you'd think. The damage is very good, and it has 7 bullets capacity for a shotgun. So very good in my opinion, but most of the time you're going to run that MP7, like I said, because of how good that gun is too. He has the P12 handgun, which comes on all of the other German operators as well. This thing does 44 damage with 15 bullets and almost 0 recoil, so a very good handgun there. And he has barbed wire or a nitro cell for his secondary gadgets. Anybody that has a nitro cell that is a 3-speed that also brings wall denial is extremely versatile and extremely powerful. If Bandit wasn't already good enough with EMP grenades being in full effect and Bandit tricking being easier than ever with his suppressed MP7, he is definitely a force to be reckoned with this season, and that is why he is on my number 4 spot. Coming into my number 3 spot is going to be Aruni. Aruni has always been a very good operator. She's extremely versatile and brings a lot to the table in terms of utility, and is extremely easy to play. That's why she's been such a good ranked operator, and is also good in the higher levels of play as well. Firstly, I want to talk about her loadout. She has the option between the MK14 EBR, the DMR that comes on Dokkaebi, or the P10 Roni. both very S-tier weapons. A lot of people don't like the EBR because it's a DMR, but if you know how to use it correctly, especially on PC, this thing's absolutely a monster. A 2-shot to the body, high fire rate, silencer, vertical grip 1.5. It's amazing. And then you have the P10 if you're not comfortable with DMRs quite yet, which is also one of the best SMGs in the game. It does have a very low ammo count, but that's made up for by her handgun, which has 15 bullets and 42 damage, all around a very versatile handgun. And this is the handgun that comes on Cav, just without the suppressor. Speaking of suppressors though, with the P10 Roni being as good of an SMG as it is with having virtually no recoil, you can now run the suppressor on that, the exact same thing for the EBR, and it be very, very good. She also, for her secondary gadgets, has the bulletproof camera and the barbed wire. The bulletproof camera, being as good as it already is really, really strong if you put it in high traffic attacker areas. So you can use that to your fullest advantage as well. And then, of course, she has her main ability, the Surya-Gate. The Surya-Gate burns any utility that's thrown into it, any projectiles, and cannot be destroyed. It can only be disabled by Thatcher or EMP grenades, but even then it turns right back on. Once it's gone, you reactivate it by shooting the top of the Aruni gate where you've placed it, and then it is able to burn any utility as well. You can walk through it, but attackers cannot, making it extremely hard for attackers to rotate through them. That's why you'll see a bunch of Aruni gates on rotates, on common doorways and stuff like that. But you can also put it on walls where you have utility, like a bulletproof camera. If you have it on a wall, you can put a gate on top of it to protect the bulletproof camera. A pretty common strat there. But then, not to mention, she has an infinite amount of holes she can make with her melee. If you don't know when she melees, she can punch a very large hole in a wall, which makes it to where you can set up sight like a smoke player extremely easily. You can make rotates, head holes, feet holes, hip holes, long angles with these holes. Like, you can just do a lot of stuff with her just meleeing, and it's also an infinite amount of times as opposed to smoke only having a certain amount of bullets. So very powerful there. The only really downside I can think of is that whenever she punches a barricade, it completely destroys the barricade, which is kind of bad for sneakily trying to spawn peek, but it is pretty good for runouts. So kind of a trade-off there. Aruni is extremely versatile with great weapons, and her ability is unparalleled when it comes to utility burn because you can reactivate it an infinite amount of times, and it's very good for late round high pressure situations, which is why I put her on the number 3 spot in this list. Coming into my number 2 spot is going to be Valkyrie. Now, Valkyrie has always been extremely good, and even after the nerf where her cameras only last 10 seconds after you throw them outside, she's still very good. I mean, think about what the ability is. It's a tiny camera that's almost invisible because of how black it is, that you can throw anywhere at long distances. You can hide anywhere in any crevice, any corner. Just because of that, it's extremely powerful. Not to mention you can move her cameras, right? Something that Maestro can't do if he's dead. And overall, it's just extremely powerful, and she has 3 of them. With an MPX and a nitro cell, you're able to create nitro traps as well. So her loadout is amazing. She's just always going to be a great operator, especially for solo queue rank. And if you play her, you're always going to be providing the max amount of utility in terms of information for your team. This being said, she also has a great loadout. She has the MPX, which already is a pretty good gun, and with suppressors being in the game, her gun has no recoil, so that makes her MPX even better. She has the Spaz 12 shotgun, which is actually a terrible shotgun. It's one of the worst shotguns in the game, so I definitely don't recommend you run that, especially because she has an MPX as her primary as well. Going into her secondary, she has the Deagle. 71 damage on a pistol is always going to be not bad. It only has 7 bullets and a high amount of recoil though, so that's really the only downside to that. And then her secondary gadgets consist of nitro cells and impact grenades. Now, typically you're going to run the nitro cell. Nitro cells are always good. They're a free kill if you know how to use them. They're plant denial, and you can set up nitro traps with her cameras. However, if you want to run out with Valkyrie cameras, due to her Valkyrie cameras still working when you throw them outside, you can run impacts and actually run out through soft walls when people are rappelling, stuff like that. So you can actually run either or, especially if you don't have anybody that's able to make rotates. But 9 times out of 10, you are going to run the nitro cell and use nitro traps with her Valkyrie cameras. She's also an easy operator to use as she has a high amount of utility just for putting a camera down, and she's extremely useful. If you die, the cameras are still up and you can actually ping people while you're not being alive, which is still really powerful. So she's very easy to play, very good when you do play her, a very good amount of weapons, very easy to learn, and is always going to be amazing, and that is why Valkyrie is number 2 on my list. But before I get into the number 1 defender that you need to be playing in Year 7 Season 3 Brutal Swarm of Rainbow Six Siege, I'm going to go into 2 honorable mentions. The first one being Alibi. Alibi is an extremely versatile fragging operator that also brings information. She brings a deployable shield, which is already extremely powerful for defenders to have. It creates high pressure situations that attackers have to waste utility on and time on, but it also gives you a lot of angles and a bulletproof shield to sit behind. She also has 3 prismas that provide utility that you can use to trick attackers into your own soloistic plays, which I talk about in my alibi guide, which I'll put in the top right here. She brings a 1.5 on a gun that is extremely easy to use and very good with its fire rate and its low recoil. And she also has a bailiff for sight setup. You can make rotates, head holes, feet holes, hip holes, etc. with this thing. So very versatile, brings a lot of utility, and is very good for fragging even if you don't know how to use her utility. She also is the #1 most picked defender in ranked in the game of Rainbow Six Siege for Plat PC and above, so that is why she is honorably mentioned on my list. My second honorable mention is going to be Smoke. Now, Smoke is probably the best defender in terms of versatility in Rainbow Six Siege. Now, the reason he's not in my top 5 is because if you go to any single top 5 tier list on defenders you need to be playing, Smoke is always going to be there because he's really, really good. But this list is more focused on defenders that weren't really good until this season, that are kind of unorthodox that you should be playing in ranked. That being said, Smoke didn't really meet the qualifications, but he's still probably the best defender in the entire game. He's just a little hard to play, and that's really the only reason he's not in my top 5, but playing Smoke is always going to be helpful. He brings a lot of sight setup, an SMG-11, a deployable shield, and the best entry denial in the game, and that is why I think Smoke should definitely make the honorable mentions. Now, the #1 defender that you need to be playing going into ranked in Year 7 Season 3 Brutal Swarm of Rainbow Six Siege is Azami. Azami is probably the best defender when it comes to ranked, as it's very hard to deal with her. She has 5 basically deployable shields that you can deploy anywhere at a lot of different heights and ranges. You can make pixel peeks with her, you can make head glitches with her, you can do a lot of versatile things with these barriers, and they're extremely easy to make a lot of value out of. She has a very high skill ceiling in terms of what you can do with her barriers, and that is why she is the #1 on this list. She's definitely an S tier operator, and she has an extremely easy loadout that she can deal with. Speaking of, she has the 9x91 VSN, which is the SMG that comes on Capcan and Tachanka, as well as the ACS-12 shotgun, which is an automatic drum mag shotgun that comes on both Maestro and Alibi. These 2 guns are extremely powerful if played correctly, but I would definitely recommend picking up her submachine gun as opposed to her shotgun, just because it's easier to use, but it's also extremely powerful with no recoil, a good amount of damage, and 30 bullets. She also has the deagle for her secondary, which means she can open up head holes and feet holes for any versatility there. That can also be paired up with her Azamis, making her extremely versatile and powerful in that sense. Her 2 secondary gadgets are the barbed wire and the impact grenades. Barbed wire is great for information. If you want to play off of your Azamis and you want information to know when to peek off of your Azamis, barbed wire is great. It also slows down attacker pushes, wastes attacker utility and time, and is overall great for information not just for you, but for your teammates. Impact grenades are her secondary gadgets that are good for doing damage, making rotates, impact tricking walls, etc. So if you don't have any wall denial, you can use your deagle to open up holes above reinforced walls and impact trick any thermites or aces that go onto your wall. Very, very versatile, and there is a lot of ways that you can play Azami and use her barriers. There are an almost infinite amount of angles that you can make with one single Azami barrier. There's pixel peeks, head glitches, like I said, and that is why she is the #1 defender that you need to play going into solo ranked this season. If you want to get even better at the game of Rainbow Six Siege, I'm definitely the channel to sub to. I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it. Go check out my operator guides, which I'll put on the left on the end screen. My name's Alka, and I will see you in the next one.